Hi, I'm Ben Futa, host of PBS Wisconsin's online gardening series, Let's Grow Stuff. Welcome to this year's virtual Wisconsin Garden and Landscape Expo. I hope you'll enjoy this special educational presentation, and remember, you can leave your questions for our presenter at any time by typing them into the chat, and we'll ask them in a live Q&A at the end of the session. Also, don't forget to stick around and check out everything this virtual event has to offer. From inspiring garden tours to an interactive exhibitor mall, there's something for everyone. And thanks for joining us. Now, please enjoy the show.
Hi, and welcome to Garden Expo. I'm very excited to be a host of today's discussion about prairie restoration from someone who's actually done it and written about how she's done it. I am Kristen Gilpatrick from the Wisconsin Historical Society Press. We are publishers of Alice D'Alessio's new memoir about her prairie restoration project called Tending the Valley, a Prairie Restoration Odyssey. We're here today to hear from Alice, some of her story, see some photos of the valley as well. So it was with great pleasure that I'd like to welcome our presenter for today, Alice D'Alessio. Alice, welcome.
Thank you, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. I was excited to have my book published by the State Historical Society this fall and getting lots of nice words about it. The book was started out of journals and so forth about restoring a piece of prairie that we have. I guess most of you are familiar with the driftless area of Wisconsin, where the last glaciers that covered the southern corner of the state melted and scraped the earth into rugged cliffs and narrow valleys. It's forested in places, ribboned in streams and stacked with high sandstone cliffs. Here, my husband's parents bought 115 acres of wilderness land near Ridgway for a getaway, a place for picnics with friends. Sally was interested in native plants, and John was hoping he could find fish in the stream. I never knew his parent. I never knew Laird's parents. They had died before we met and before they got to see the restoration they had hoped for. The cabin and land had been pretty much neglected for many years by the time Laird invited me to see it. We had recently met and I was intrigued by his descriptions. It was a drizzly day when we turned into the narrow two-track bumpy driveway, and it sloped between high wooded ridges and rock outcroppings for what seemed like a mile. Eventually, we came upon a clearing and found a shabby gray shack. We climbed three sagging steps and turned to look out over the open fields and the wooded ridges that surrounded them. Even though it had been neglected, I was enchanted by the land. We explored the overgrown field surrounded by the oak woods on one side and the amazing pine woods on the south. We named it the Valley, and we began spending more and more time, nights and weekends, learning about the land and making the cabin habitable. I grew up in the East, and so Maryland and Delaware and Long Island and New Jersey, I was not familiar with the plants that grew in the valley. And so visitors from the university and the DNR told us that the wild field was probably once a prairie. We gathered books and began to know the names of the plants and the trees that surrounded us and the ones that should be here. We were visited by representatives of the DNR who were concerned that we were going to divide up the land and build houses. We assured them that we were not going to do that. And over the years, we made friends and gained a lot of information and assistance from the DNR. We also learned of other organizations that were dedicated to prairies and woods, the Driftless Area Land Conservancy, and the Prairie Enthusiasts. We attended meetings and field trips, learning more which plants had to be removed, like the reed canary grass along the stream and the other invasives. Burning the fields was the best tool we had, and we were excited to see how the prairie plants reappeared after the fires, while many invasives died. Gradually, the fields took on a prairie look. Native plants spread, bluestem and Indian grasses, coneflowers, columbine, and Turk's cap lilies, and we saved the seeds and replanted and shared them with other people and started to plan a restoration in the woods too. We burned there, which was exciting. We also did some logging of unwanted or overgrown trees. It was clear that nature intended the north hillsides to be oak, while the growth of pines on the high bluffs on the other side was known as a pine relic, the leftover remnant of an ancient white pine forest that thrived on sandstone bluffs in earlier, cooler centuries. We frequently had calls from students and foresters who asked to visit the pine relic, which was and is a very special place. After 20 years of labor, as we began to feel our age, we hired helpers to do the heavy work of removing the invasives and burning the fields, while we enjoyed time exploring and writing in the journal. Once again, we were visited by representatives from the DNR who had an attractive proposal. They were interested in buying the valley and including it in the new Ridgeway Pines State Natural Area that they were planning, open for public hiking and exploration. Though we hated to let the land go, we knew it would be in good hands, and we're pleased that other nature lovers would have a chance to enjoy it. For as long as we live, we have ownership rights to the cabin and 5 acres. When we die, this too becomes the responsibility of the DNR. We hope they love it and care for this special place the way we have done. This year, the State Historical Society published my book. If you want to read more, the book is available from them or from me for $16.
Thank you for giving us kind of the overview of your story. I'd like to talk a little bit more as we can here. Just kind of going over some of the highlights of your story. You talk a lot about burning invasive species.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about how maybe a controlled burn might work? Like how did you manage that? That sounds like almost a little scary to me.
It was very exciting. We loved doing burns. We had a lot of friends that were interested in doing burns too. You'd be surprised how many people want to do burns. You pick out an area and burn down one side and down the other side. Well, burn on 3 sides so that there's protected area. And then you light a fire across that 4th side. And then you have people stationed all the way along the other sides to keep sparks from flying around. And it just burns, depending on the wind. You have to decide where the wind is. It just burns right down, and pretty soon you have a big square of burned grass.
And why do you burn?
Why do you burn? For some reason, that gets rid of the invasives like sumac and things that we don't want. And the seeds that are in there from the old prairie apparently come popping up in a fire. That's the way prairie fires have always worked, and it does work.
Ah, okay. And, another question I had is, how did you decide what plants to plant? How do you know what the prairie was? How do you go about finding that out?
Well, you should see my 27 copies of books here that I have on how to restore a prairie. That's how we learn. We talked to people. We went to the meetings, as I told you, and then I read, John Curtis and lots of people's books about how to restore a prairie. And eventually we did learn. And there's a lot of people. You'd be surprised how many people there are out there doing this. And I'm sure there may be some in the audience that could do a better job of talking about it than I can.
Now, you had a pretty big prairie to work with. I'm going to share our screen again and try to show the map.
It is 115 acres.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So that's pretty good size.
yeah.
And maybe you can orientate people here using the map. This is where that cabin that you talked about, this area up here. And so looking out from that cabin, you're looking at this first section, which you called Marshall Fields for a particular reason, I think, right?
Well, my husband had a sense of humor. That's all. He thought Marshall Fields has a nice sound to it.
His last name is Marshall.
Yes, his name is Marshall.
And then that leads into the Daisy Meadows.
Yeah, it turns a corner there and back.
Yeah, where there's a little stream here on the side.
Yep.
It sounds like the pine relic is an especially important part of this land. It's not a prairie, so to speak. It's a different part that needed to be protected and cared for.
Yes.
What makes it so special?
Well, it's called a relic, and in fact, it is a relic of centuries ago when there were pine trees, when the climate was a lot colder, and there were mostly pine around here, and so the few patches of that are left, most of them are gone now. Over the years, they've been cut and died and so forth. But the few that are left, and they're all out in that area of the driftless area, are called relics, and we are trying to hold on to them and take care of them.
And you were saying the DNR was particularly interested in the pine relic portion of the land. You've since donated this property, except for the cabin, to the DNR, correct?
Yes. And the people in the forestry department, foresters and other people like that, come out to see the pine relic, mostly. That's the exciting part of it.
The prairie is stunning. I've been out there. Again, if you look at this view, this is obviously, we're standing where the cabin is. So if you come out here in this first section, that is Marshall Fields. What originally did you guys plant there?
When did we?
When and what? What did you plant in the Marshall Fields area?
Well, we started burning right soon after we got there. We were encouraged to burn. As I said, we had help from the DNR, and we met a lot of people that had done prairie burning. And we assisted them on their burns. And so then they came and assisted us. And the purpose was to get those native plants in there, which, it's an easy way to do it. You burn and they come up. They're in the soil. And you get rid of the honeysuckle, and honeysuckle is a terrible problem. You get asters like this, purple asters, and coneflowers, and Turk's cap lily, and beautiful, beautiful plants that come up.
This is a coneflower right here we're seeing in the foreground of this picture, right?
Now that is a coneflower, the white one.
Mm-hmm.
And
what about, I know that there's some grasses as well that are native to the prairie that you guys try to encourage. Maybe talk about a few of those there. I had no idea till I read your book there were so many kinds of grass. Wow.
There's big blue stem. That's big blue stem right there in the foreground. And they're called turkey foot because of the way the seeds spread out like a turkey's foot. And when the settlers were traveling across the prairie, settling our country, that's what they saw. It was just fields and fields and fields of a big blue stem that would come up past their horses' backs, just huge. And you read about that in all the books history books that you read about. Then there's a shorter one, but a nice one called Indian grass. I like it because the seeds come off very easily. You just slip them right off. And that's pretty too. And let me
So
see.
you just mentioned this right now about the seeds
Yeah.
coming up. And
Yeah.
I have a question about that. Did you guys have to go through and hand pick all the seeds off and then replant them? Or how did you, do
We
they do
did.
it all by themselves? You don't have to do a thing.
Of course, they do a lot of it by themselves. But we also, in the fall, that was one of the things we did was take a bag and go out and pick seeds. It's fun to do.
So for people who are coming at this whole idea of restoring a prairie from the perspective of someone who has a garden in the backyard, these are not the same things.
No, they're not. And I grew up, as I said, in the East, and we always had gardens. I helped my father with his garden all the time. So I was used to digging and planting. But the prairie was all a very new thing to me. And I guess I just got hooked on it. And it was just fun to see how it changed.
Well, it's definitely a passion. You would not take on something that big unless you're very passionate about it.
Crazy.
And just a couple of other questions, and I apologize if you hear my dog in the background. He occasionally will step into these meetings
To be included.
just when you least expect him. But anyway, I was going to ask you actually about the actual wildlife, not the domesticated life.
Yes.
What do you see there in the prairie?
Oh gosh, there's a lot about that in the book. Somebody came and counted 40 different bird species, I think. Some birder that could listen to them and hear and tell what they were. We also had coyotes across the stream. There was a little valley where at nighttime you'd hear the coyotes howling. So there were a lot of coyotes. I don't remember that we had any wolves. It was mainly the coyotes and the birds, and of course wild turkeys, things that bite you. Wild turkeys and of course, birds, I guess, mainly, because we had eagles fly over and lots of just wonderful birds. But I can't think of any other animals besides the coyotes. Well, turtles and frogs in the stream and beaver. Oh, yes, I have a whole chapter on beaver. Forgot about that. And they were wonderful.
And did you have a wildlife management alongside of prairie management, or it's just kind of whoever came in and
Yeah.
Was it determined by the plants that you planted? Say what kind of birds might have been in the area, that sort of thing?
Definitely for the birds, but not for the other for other animals. They were just there because that's where they wanted to be. But the birds were attracted to the different plants, definitely. And we did have a wonderful beaver dam and lake in the stream for a few years.
Wonderful. Did you, can you talk a little bit about some of the friends groups and the different ways that people can get more information and help if they want to try and take on some project like this?
Well, I have a 3-foot bookshelf up here. I'm probably going to be getting rid of some of those. No, there's just so many. What did I like particularly? There's a whole series, A Field Guide to Trees and Plants, A Field Guide to everything. There's one for everything, but mainly a book on what we should be planting in a place like that, which plants a prairie should have. 3 or 4 different books on those. And I'm particularly fond of trees, so I have about 5 or 6 tree books. But, if you I would suggest you could go to the Arboretum, Ann Arboretum somewhere, and look at their sections on growing plants or what natural plants.
I guess one other question I had too was the two of you working together doing this. Was it something that took every weekend? Is it something that you'd come in and do for a period of time and then?
Depending on the season, yes. We'd say, oh gosh, we'd get out there and see that there was a whole lot of something there that we didn't want. And so that would be what we'd do that weekend, or we knew what was going to be there. And so we were ready for it. And then up the back hill behind the cabin was a scraggly woods, some dead trees and so forth. And we decided that we wanted to plant some oaks up there, more oaks, because that's where they would be. And so, one weekend we killed ourselves planting oak trees up there. And it depended on the season and on what caught our fancy. Maybe we had visited somebody else's land and we wanted some of what they had. So it gets to be it takes over your life, really.
Well, what a tremendous legacy that this prairie is there and that it's so beautiful and the pine relic is still standing in there. And the legacy continues because people can read how you did it, why you did it, and you write about it so beautifully. As beautiful as the prairie is, I think your writing's even more beautiful when you talk about it. You can see the passion in that writing. And I encourage people to read more about it in Tending the Valley. It's available at libraries. It's available pretty much anywhere, any book retailer, et cetera, like you said, from us, wisconsinhistory.org. So I encourage people to do that. And I thank you so much for joining us at Garden Expo, Alice.
Well, thank you for having me, Kristen. It's been a pleasure to work with everybody at the State Historical Society. They've been so cooperative. So I've enjoyed the whole experience a lot. Maybe I'll just start and write another one now.
That's a great idea. Are you going to restore another prairie or just?
I don't think so.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Ben Fuda, host of Let's Grow Stuff. Well, we just finished learning about a prairie restoration odyssey, and Alice is now joining us live to answer some of the questions that you all have sent in during the presentation. And as a reminder, this was all recorded, so you'll be able to go back and watch this again if you'd like, or pick up on any tidbits you might have missed. And also, you can keep asking those questions as we're talking here, so either through the live stream, on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you might be watching. So with that, Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Certainly welcome.
So our first question is coming in from Jess, and she's asking, how does one begin this? If someone has a space they'd like to try, what is the first thing they need to think about if they'd like to restore a prairie?
Well, don't try and do too much all at once. We had a patch of sandy, rough soil in front of the new cabin that had gotten all digged up when we were building it, and we decided we'd have a prairie there. And it was damp and sandy. And so we had to try a few different things before we caught one that liked that kind of place to be. It doesn't work everywhere.
It's not an exact science in that way. Nature has its own ideas, for sure.
Nice little prairie by now.
Definitely. So we have another question. How long did it take for the prairie to sort of take off? Did anything like those honeysuckle you dealt with come back, or once the prairie got up and rolling, were they sort of kept at bay?
They keep coming back, but we kept fighting them, and eventually, I would have to say we did do most of it. But, it wasn't right away. It wasn't the first year. You didn't just pull it out and it was gone. by any means, but we had a lot of help too. And, it just takes time and a lot of patience.
Patience and vigilance. We have a family woodland as well with lots of it. Just you got to stay on top of it. It's never ending. So this next question is coming from Angie, and I know this question well. I know as a gardener, it's really hard for me to answer, but it's one of my favorites. Do you have a favorite plant or group of plants that you really enjoy in the prairie?
Oh, yes. Coneflowers, gentians. Coneflowers and gentians are wonderful. Then we have a very tall sunflower, tall wild sunflower. It's not what you think of in a big sunflower. It's just one that grows along the stream every year, and it's just gorgeous. Just sort of one plant there, and coneflowers of all kinds. And I love the grasses. So it's really hard to pin them down and say, this is the best. Because it also depends on what's blooming when,
Yes. Seasonality, absolutely. So another question coming in from Julie. She's wondering, is the Valley open for visitors at any point? Are you welcoming folks to come and look at what you've been working on?
Well, here's the interesting thing that happened at the end, and this is all in the book. The DNR had their eye on that land for a long time, and they really wanted it. And so when we got to the point where we no longer could keep up with it, which did happen, we talked with some of the DNR members, and they made us an offer that they would give us 5 years and the cabin, and if we would trade them the rest of the land. And so now the DNR is taking care of it. And we go out with them sometimes, and some of it's being taken care of well, and some of it, not so well. But we feel pretty good about the way it turned out.
So Elise...
Here's what happened. The land that the DNR got was added on to a prairie that had already been, the prairie and the pine relic had already been taken in on what's it called? Ridgeway Pine Relic. It's called the Ridgeway Pine Relic, but then they added the other land into that, and it all became part. So can people go there and see it was the question. Yes, I believe so. If you hike in the Ridgeway Pine Relic, you can find it. And, you can walk on the trails that are left. Now, the last time I was out walking on the trails, I noticed that they'd become quite overgrown. It's not necessarily as easy as it used to be. And there's bramble and so forth. But I'm planning to go out in the spring, certainly, see what it's like.
And can you remind our viewers that the name of sort of the natural area that this has became? So if they want to look it up and go visit for themselves, what name should they go look for?
The Ridgeway Pine Relic.
Perfect. Ridgeway.
And it's DNR.
Perfect.
Yep.
Elise is wondering, is there anything about sort of this ecosystem you're working in, being in a valley, that is unique in prairies? Is this a prairie you would find in other places, or in Wisconsin, or is this something really special to this site?
Oh, it's all over Wisconsin, here and there in places. We, as I said in the book, we joined a couple of different organizations. The let me see, what are they all named? The various Driftless Area Land Conservancy. That's a good one, and they're based in. Where are they? They're out in.
Dodgeville.
Where?
Dodgeville.
Dodgeville. I'm sorry, Dodgeville. Driftless Area Land Conservancy. Look them up and get in touch with them. You can join. You could go on walks everywhere and find out a lot. And then there's another one called the Prairie Enthusiasts. That was the one we started with. And there were a lot of prairie enthusiasts. They were very helpful, too.
Excellent. So you mentioned in your talk that you had many books that you turned to as your guide as you were going through this work. Are there one or two that you found most helpful that are sort of your go-tos that you might recommend to somebody who's again also interested in this?
This is one I really like. It's from the Arboretum, and it's just prairie plants of the University of Wisconsin and Madison Arboretum. Well, they say it's in the Arboretum. They're all over. This is also a very good book about trees and shrubs. And then probably the one I used the most was this book. Can you read that on there?
Yeah, it looks like the Tallgrass Restoration Handbook.
Tallgrass Restoration Handbook. And boy, was it useful. It's gotten all worn out.
That's how you know it's been a loved book, is it? when it shows its love.
Yes, it's really a treasure. It tells you how to plant, make little sections and fence it off, and it just shows you everything. So I would recommend that one too. And of course, I have a whole shelf full of it.
Excellent.
I think
any gardeners have a great collection of books. It's a common thread, I think, for sure. Thomas is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said the books are necessary.
Absolutely. Thomas was asking. He was curious why you removed the pond.
Why we removed the pond?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
We actually didn't remove the pond.
Okay.
There was a dam across it. When I think Laird's father put a dam across it and was hoping to go fishing in the pond. And with the first spring or winter storm, it washed away. And so there was no pond anymore. We would have had to dig and fence, and that was more work than we really wanted to do. We were not fisher people. And we kept sort of hoping that they'd show up in the stream. The stream ran from the pond all the way along one side of the prairie. Not a big stream. It was a couple of feet tall, a couple of feet maybe deep. And but no fish ever showed up along there, unfortunately. And we didn't dig the pond. I'm sorry, Thomas.
Well, and again, sometimes nature has, again, other plans for our spaces and our sites. So that's, I think, working with the signals you were getting, it makes a lot of sense. So we have just a couple more questions, I think, here coming into the final few minutes. One, how did you gain a historical perspective on the site sort of before you started? Was there any sort of background research or natural history you looked into before really getting started?
I have read a number of books about the area out there, and it wasn't before, it was probably after we had the land. I got very interested in it. And we, as I say in the book, we bought it from an elderly woman whose family had that land and had held onto that land for a couple of generations, I think. And I knew what it was like out there. There were farmers, and they raised cattle, and it was typical southern Wisconsin land. And so that's how I knew sort of what it was supposed to be like, or what it had been like. But way back before the farmers came, it was prairie. There's no question about that from what I read.
So in this journey, is there something that really stands out to you that was a surprise? Something that maybe you look back on and think, didn't expect that, or just sort of one of those pleasant moments that really stand out to you today?
Well, I wrote about some of them in the book, the real treats that we had, the times we had that were so special that we discovered areas. Climbing up the relic was always, I don't think I could do it anymore. Climbing up there was always fun. We always found something different. But I was worried, too, that somebody was going to go off the edge of the cliff, which was about a 40-foot drop. So I didn't really want to invite small children or even larger children. What else was fun? Just planting various things and seeing them happen, I guess, gave me the biggest thrill.
And how did you come about choosing a name for the book? Where did that inspiration come from?
Well, it's what we did all those years. We tended the valley, and so it just came out automatically.
Those are the best, the organic moments.
Yep.
Well, our final, we just had one last comment come in from Nora, and she says, thank you. This has been extremely informative and really enjoyable. So thank you so much, Alice, for taking time to share your story and your expertise with all of us.
Well, I hope all of you get a chance to go out and walk in the Ridgeway natural area, because that is possible to do. You may not get all the way through our valley, but you could be in that area. So thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, everyone, again, there is more Expo coming up just after this. We have more exhibitor booth live streamings, some re-airing of the Wisconsin Gardener, and a presentation about growing garlic in Wisconsin. So there's a lot more Expo coming up just after this, and we'll see you soon.